Synergetic Journal, January 16, 2026. Christina Herlofson, Synergetics Research Project. This morning, I feel especially grateful for the invaluable information after taking the time yesterday to type out the listed references to omni words in our Buckminster Fuller Synergetics Dictionary. It turns out to be an essential contribution to the omni-rational prospects of forming a more perfect union. My metaphysical intellect's consciously coordinated thought, language, anticipatory design, science, evolution is intellectually challenged by the relevantly considered omni-regenerative nature of universe's omni-rational, interrelated energy events and human events. Among human events shown in Synergetics 502.22 is EISEDP, experiences, intuition, speculations, experiments, discoveries, productions. Energy events are always special case. For every energy event which we can read in Synergetics 511.01 through .02 and .05, there are 6 vectors or none, in quotes. A single event is integrally complex, end quote. Furthermore, in quotes, all energy event experimentation has shown systematic and most economic behavior patterning, end quote. Surely, awareness of energy events must be integrally relevant to increasing or reducing the tolerance magnitudes of the residual inaccuracies of observation and articulation, as systemic thought consciously accommodates the intertransactions to some discernible degree that we have yet to omni-relevantly qualify and quantify in our anticipatory design science consciously coordinating thought language realities. Most of us have never thought of events outside current events, news events, societal gala events, and so forth. Now, though, we are learning more about events which are conceptual, as angles are, independent of size. At his Nassau speech, page 33, June 1966, R. Buckminster Fuller iterated that humans must learn to think of environment realistically as the impingement of a complex program of variously overlapping non-simultaneous events. The events are occurring in a wide range of frequencies and energy magnitudes within the non-sensorially tunable and the visually tunable frequencies. The frequencies are of the electromagnetic spectrum. The name Roy G. Biv derives from awareness of the electromagnetic rainbow range from low energy red, orange, yellow to green, blue, indigo, violet in the visible spectrum to high energy of X-ray, gamma rays, molecules, atoms, and atomic nuclei. As well, events occur within the wave and frequency patterning of crystalline, having the structure and form of a crystal, the liquid and the gaseous states of energy that we superficially know of as matter, in quotes. Matter is to radiation as knots of rope are to coils of rope. Synergetics 529.04. Most important, for our omni-inclusive metaphysical intellect that employs its own brain, is that our environment of systemic thought can learn of the whole gamut range of potential tune-inable frequencies, and not to be dismayed by inculcated ignorance that for centuries has supplanted relevant knowledge of science with belief system complexities, those confounding quagmires that justify humanly innovated perceptions, literally, figuratively, technically usurping our potential clarifications of equations, philosophical equations. Special case is always physical, distinguished from metaphysical, which is not physical, but is conceptualizable by metaphysical generalized conceptioning, independent of the physical. Special case, size, time, space sizing. This is happening while my brain-mind synergetically informed awareness already knows of the vector equilibrium as the equanimity model that shares the same design both in the metaphysical and physical universe. This coherent communication experience permits logical use of the term egalitarian and omni-egalitarian, inviting a closer scrutiny into an exasperating human condition that obviously is not the least knowledgeable, therefore unconcerned, of omni-humanity's potential conceptual and reasoning, respecting omni-integration as but one of a great many inclusive omni-words in the ongoing communication process. The word egalitarian defines favoring social equality, which the dictionary associates with anti-authoritarian, a type of democratic relating to or supporting democracy, which could be classified as egalitarianism. Having memories stored from Arbuthnot Fuller that, in quotes, integration discreetly controls the coordination of all complex interactions, end quote. Naturally, this holistic phrase comes to mind whenever the continuity of my conscious life tunes into an application which the thought of omni-integration inspired. In addition, let us not forget what Arbuthnot Fuller wrote in 1949, Total Thinking, an essay from his published book, Ideas and Integrities, which states that, in quotes, the continuity of conscious life becomes personality as a product of complex periodic interactions known as cycles or periodic recurrences of a higher frequency order, end quote. Once memory stored, this phrase inspires variously developing integrative uses of it, particularly referentially, to consciously coordinated thought and language respecting forming a more perfect union. Consciously controlling the coordination of all complex interactions is a far cry from authoritarian control that differs by degree in thought language omni-considerations from omni-egalitarian conceptioning and what could turn out to be omni-subconscious across the broadest spectrum of the always partially overlapping generations in human populations everywhere in the world that, for millenniums, in the grand scheme of things, irrationally induced rules and laws devised thus in absences of forethought of an omnidirectional frame of reference. That in generalized principle is not solely of this physical world, but also conceptually of universe's metaphysical, eternal, omni-integrity. In respect to our humanity conceptually forming a more perfect union as an omnidirectional frame of reference, an omnidirectionality awareness is brought into our individual consciously coordinated thought language. Can we accomplish such an idea whose time has come without knowing that the behavioral interpatterning frame of reference is the vector equilibrium? Its 6 degrees of freedom embrace the three-dimensionality of the cube, as well as the 6-dimensionality of the vector equilibrium itself. Now that we are informed of this pattern integrity, it becomes almost unimaginable to consider any potential form of government without taking into clearest clarification the 24 positive, 24 negative vector equilibrium, primarily because it demonstrates what our systemic thought cannot operate without, regardless what words officially constitute any nation's Bill of Rights, its constitution, before any amendments are expected to act on behalf of oversights, omitted terminology, and the conceptual geometric topological models we are now apprised of, including the model of equanimity. At minimum, a plurality of 24 vectors is an initially frequent tetrahedrally quantized unity of 20, therefore. The universe conceptualized thus is precisely the aggregate of all humanity's apprehended and comprehended experiences, coinciding with a multitude of 24 numbered time-related experiences, such as, for instance, the 24-hour cycle, and any multiples of 6 and 4 which we can recall from the order underlying randomness equation's generalized principle. N to the second power minus n divided by 2 equals 6, where n is 4. An easy, recallable tetrahedral equation. That humans can conceptualize the whole WHOLE electromagnetic spectrum, referential to the formulas for the number of spheres in the outer layer of closest packed spheres in primary systems, does not mean we cannot anticipate those geometric topological models. After all, they are integrity patterns correlating to a cosmic accounting. It well may be in some distant projection by innate imagination's conceptual formulations, not having any degree of destruction in mind. Rather, instead, a clarification of nature's coordinate system that is missing from every PRJWBCHM complexity, wherein human behavior subconsciously adjusts the a priori thought to actions, reactions, resultant remedy, having no informed knowledge about primary systems. If known, Nature's primary system instead can begin to explain why there is no such thing as inexorable in the design of our evolving species coexisting in civilized, benignly designed and structured human habitats, protected thus from wild animals, now that we are informed of omni-exorable. The false premise, inexorable, in the human condition underlies the seemingly inescapable madness of reactionary impulse. It is as if the underway human events are devoid of conceptual energy events in principle, as par for the course, malfunctioning as an imprisoned mind, heart, health, happiness, where humans expect it is natural for the people to petition the overpowering governmental authority for a redress of grievances when the governing system itself omits, by default slave mentality conditioning, the equanimity model, vector equilibrium, as prime betweenness model, Synergetics 443.01 through .03. Why in omni-rational universe would our consciously evolving humanity omit the central symmetry through which both balanced and unbalanced asymmetries pulsatingly and complexedly intercompensate and synchronize, when we have the vector equilibrium to realize within the parameters of any anticipatory reality? Are we to continue expecting the relatively irrationally composed documents, albeit the world's best intending constitutions, bills of right, in any nation on earth that was formed to assure the sovereignty and human populations, that they can rely on such protections under those rules and laws that deny generalization, promote specializations, thereby inadvertently inducing more asymmetries, to perpetually propagate the problems of consciousness? Let us not forget that omnisymmetrical permits local asymmetries, and that universe is omnisymmetrical. Perhaps, as we perpetuate forming a more perfect union again today, while incorporating the language of science from RBF's discovery of nature's coordinate system, our omni-humanity is being misled by the wrong computer designs, veering toward AI technology and farther away from RBF's atomic computer complex that include his conceptual insights governing the complete family of variables involved in realization of humanity's logical access to the ultimate computer. Synergetics 427.06 through 427.07. In this case, RBF uses the term ultimate to mean the most comprehensive, incisive, and swiftest possible information storing, retrieving, and variably processing facility with the least possible physical involvement and the least possible investment of human initiative and cosmic energization. This computer complex seems nothing like what is controlling the universal communication process. Platforms, markets, advertising revenue to the nth degree of utterly devastating, never-ending clickbait submission of every turn of events online, including having to carry everywhere a cell phone by law in China, from what I gather, and elsewhere as a matter of convenience. It is a dependency that in truth does not make anyone more free, smarter, better informed of events, especially since much of what is being disseminated is fake, causing mild to serious disturbing distrust of what in actuality is seen with both eyes, tuned in with that sense of the electromagnetic spectrum that does not anticipate being fooled by any cleverly induced emulations. As we can read in Synergetics 503.03, the starting point for happenings or non-happenings is the vector equilibrium. Metaphysical generalized conception in fields of thought, which operates conceptually independent of size, time space sizing, recognizes that the vector equilibrium is the empty theater, an empty circus, empty universe that is ready to accommodate any act, any audience. Isn't this what our humanity is presently obsessed with anyway? Demonstrating unique personality traits for all manner and reason, but without the conceptual model and consciously coordinated thought language, regardless if the actor is situate in a podcast studio, participating by activating riots in the streets, playing out the particular role as an actor on the world stage, working at getting its voice across, albeit with fear-driven bravado, regardless of the price paid for freedom. They are degrees of freedom in any case, but not as we have been misinformed about what freedom is comprised and to what minimum thinkable set the conceptuality of it refers. I include here another list. Under freedom from the Synergetics Dictionary, the mind of R. Buckminster Fuller. Freedom, C. Cosmic freedom, degrees of freedom, free will, initial freedoms, loss, discovery through loss. Man's degrees of freedom of action, motion freedom, individual freedom versus mutual emergency. Event freedoms, star event and degrees of freedom, intergeared mobility freedoms. Until next time, gratefully, faithfully, eternally. Christina Herlofson.